Okay, so the creator of Bleach, Tite Kubo, recently dropped some news that has a lot of Bleach fans going crazy and thinking, yo, why was this not addressed in the Bleach anime, in the Bleach manga, in the Bleach series in general? Because this is major news for the series, in canon stuff, and in general. This is something that is making even some fans say, yo, dog, sequel series when? Like, this is something that needs to be explored. So major stuff in the world of Bleach. Then on the side of Dragon Ball related things, Dragon Ball Daima's producer came out and said something that has fans kind of mixed on. Well, one, it kind of felt obvious, and then at the same time it's like, bro, why? Just absolutely, I gotta ask, why? So definitely something major in the world of Dragon Ball. Pretty big news in the world of One Piece and a whole bunch of other stuff that we're gonna talk about. And should I say it? Dare I say it? Okay, I'm gonna say it. Why not? Another exciting episode of ForneverWorld News! Ooh, that felt good to say. It's been so long. Subscribe and hit that bell to get more updates in the world of anime and manga. Okay, so it seems as though ever since the Bleach return, it's been one thing after another for Bleach's series in terms of good news. Like, Bleach has just been taking W after W, win after win, with no end to the victories in sight. Because yeah, Bleach is just on the rise. It's been incredible to see. Tite Kubo has just been non-stop, very carefully, very methodically, but nevertheless very much so awesomely, if we want to use that word. Yeah, he's been really giving some great news, one thing after another. And I think one of the things that contributed majorly to a lot of this good news is the fact that he has that little avenue where he kind of allows fans to get some insight into things, into the world of Bleach, things that never really was explained, in general upcoming news, awesome stuff regarding finding out things about Bleach with his club outside that he has, that I still don't understand. Bro, why not bring it to the States? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's exclusive to Japan, so it's kind of only when fans, you know, bring out the information that other people are like, oh snap, that is freaking major and that is awesome. And yeah, there's some big news that came out of his club outside recently regarding Bleach, and in particular regarding something that was never discussed and was never really showcased in the Bleach anime and the Bleach manga, that honestly it makes you question, like, well, you know what, let's dive into it so you understand what it is first before we go further into. Yeah, a Bleach sequel would be crazy regardless, but with this information, you never know, especially with what the focus has been on the Bleach 1000-year blood war. This might be something that could change everything. After dropping a bombshell, Bleach owes fans a sequel more now than ever. While the Bleach manga has been over with for nearly a decade now, creator Tite Kubo continues to answer questions from fans, and sometimes these answers are extremely revealing. Kubo's latest answer, however, has revealed why a Bleach sequel or continuation is a must, as the series world just got a lot more mysterious. Tite Kubo regularly answers questions from fans on his Club Outside platform, offering tidbits of information that didn't make it into the manga's main series and clarifying some of the things that did. These answers are then translated by dedicated fans for the rest of the fan base to enjoy. Although I gotta imagine when stuff like this happens, Kubo is like, yeah, it's good promo to get people in, but then at the same time it's like, darn it, this is supposed to be exclusive for my fans and whatnot. So he probably feels mixed, but even more so, I gotta imagine every time something like this happens and people like myself report on it, talk about it, and in general the community gets in on kind of, you know, hey, this is what's happening, I gotta imagine it gets a lot more people to sign up for his club outside to be, you know, the first in on the information and on the news and everything related to Bleach and stuff that Tite Kubo has on his mind. So it's kind of a bit of a mixed bag, I gotta imagine. While most questions are simple and largely irrelevant facts about characters, occasionally a really compelling question gets through, prompting widespread debate and discussion throughout the fandom. And just quickly to address that, while most questions are simple and largely irrelevant facts about characters, if you're a big Bleach fan, getting on a regular basis information about your favorite series, regardless what it may be, especially when it's coming directly from the creator, is huge. It's massive. It's something that is really awesome for fans of the series. So by no means should that be like, I don't like the wording of that, of like, oh, they're largely irrelevant facts about characters. Like, if you're a Bleach fan and Kubo is telling you, yo, this you didn't know, that you didn't know, that is something that is huge and the fans love it. So just gotta throw that in there. That was the case with Kubo's latest answer, in which he said that Quincy's go to their own afterlife when they die. Prior to Kubo's answers, most fans had assumed that Quincy, like other humans, went to the Soul Society when they died. While that situation does raise some questions, such as what happens to a Quincy who dies in the Soul Society, like during their attack, it more or less made sense with what was known of the structure of Bleach's afterlife. Kubo's reveal that Quincy have their own afterlife raises a lot of questions, as much was made about the structure of the world of Bleach, factoring heavily into Yhwach's motivations for conquering reality. In Bleach, there are 3 realms of relatively equal size: the world of the living, the Soul Society, and Huecamundo, the world of hollows. These realms were created by the Soul King's dismemberment, establishing the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. There's also Hell, a realm independent of the 3 interconnected worlds, which has always existed, and to which particularly evil souls, which, hold up, let's address this real quick. So, the world of the living, Soul Society, and Huecamundo, the world of hollows, were created after the fact of Hell. So in the Bleach world, essentially, because it says right here that Hell has always been independent and it always existed, but those other 3 entities were created after the fact. So is Hell the original world to begin with? So technically, maybe if Hell was purged of all the bad stuff from it and turned into a good place, would essentially Hell be like the heaven? Is that actually supposed to be heaven? Because again, think of it in a way of like the Soul King at some given point was a man that created these things after he got the powers of a godly being, but Hell was always there. He should have just turned Hell into what it was supposed to be, I gotta imagine, to begin with, a good place. Just a thought there, you know what I'm saying? Just thinking out loud, so to speak. Let me know what you think about that. As a matter of fact, if Hell has always existed and these 3 beings or these 3 places came after the fact, why not just turn Hell into, and to which particularly evil souls are condemned for their actions in life? Kubo's answer suggests that yet another realm, one for deceased Quincy, must exist but has never been mentioned in the manga, which again would also make a lot of sense and also makes me wonder why it was never shown. I mean, considering the fact that the last half of the manga was like, what, 200 and something chapters, and it was all about Quincy and all about their fight in the Serite, and going back even into the first 1,000-year Blood War where the Quincy went up against the, Soul Reapers or whatnot. There was a lot of reason and a lot of chances for Kubo to, even if it was just a couple of lines, mention this thing, because it kind of left it vague. Like, so wait, we're fighting these people that, if you don't have this information, right, about the Quincy having their own afterlife, so to speak, you are left to assume that when they die, they're going to come back to the Soul Society anyways, regardless if they die in the world of the living or whatever the case may be. It's just kind of strange, to say the least. Like, even going back to early Bleach, if you really think about it, like Uryu's grandfather, you immediately assume like, oh, he passed, and man, he's in the Soul Society. And why didn't Uryu, when he went to the Soul Society with Ichigo to rescue Rukia, and all the times that they ventured off, why did he never even attempt to, like, maybe I could find my grandfather if he was reincarnated into the Soul Society and I could possibly reunite? Like, those are questions that personally, at the very least, I had. So the fact of the matter is that, yeah, they have their own separate place to begin with. Why didn't Bach even attempt to go there, or not conquer there, but kind of, pimp my ride, so to speak, the Quincy afterlife? A lot of questions definitely arise with something like this, and it's interesting, fascinating, and also opens an extremely large door for things moving forward. Now, granted, I don't know if Kubo would ever want to revisit the Quincy as a primal factor for an arc, even if, after the Hell arc that he started with the one-shot whatnot was to continue whatnot, because if I'm not mistaken, I remember very vividly that Kubo said he wanted to do, after this Quincy German theme, so to speak, with the 1,000-year Blood War, that he wanted to do a French based arc. And from my understanding, from what we got with the one shot, the Hell arc doesn't seem to be inspired by French stuff, because Soul Society was based on Japan. Everything Aizen related was a lot of like Spanish and Hispanic themes. Even the music in the anime was like Hispanic sounding stuff. And then of course the Quincy related things in Thousand Year Blood War was German. This could possibly maybe lead to some French thing. Maybe they get to the Quincy afterlife and it's just like a whole bunch of motherfuckers going, oh, oui, oui. Again, that's what Kubo said back in the day, that he wanted to do a French themed arc after the Thousand Year Blood War if he ever did more. There are a few other possibilities. Some fans, for example, believe that every Quincy soul returns to Yhwach when they die, so Quincy's effectively have no afterlife. Kubo's statement would seemingly contradict that, but it's just vague enough. That's basically like saying that Yhwach's body is like the Quincy heaven, but it's just vague enough that Yhwach might be considered another place. The other option is that all Quincy are immediately sent to hell for the crime of being Quincy. No, that's terrible, which seems wildly unfair at best and has some disturbing implications at worst. Or confirmed, just to throw that in there again, if hell was originally supposed to be the paradise and it kind of got perverted, so to speak, into being this hell related thing, then that very well could be the original home place of the Quincy to begin with, and it just got destroyed, it got decimated. But initially it was supposed to be a paradise that Quincy created. That's a possibility as well. Over its run, Bleach thoroughly explored both the Soul Society and Huecamundo, and a non-canonical movie even tackled Hell, Kubo's anniversary one-shot for Bleach. No Breaths from Hell obviously dealt with Hell as well, and many fans believe it to be the launching point for a new Hell arc, which will explore the series' final spirit realm in detail whenever Kubo feels up to continuing the story. The idea of yet another spirit realm, one for Quincy and Quincy alone, is certainly an interesting idea, and one that could easily support another arc or be tied closely to the Hell arc. I mean, if the Hell arc, and if Hell was originally the Quincy homeland to begin with, it could still tie in the Quincy and stuff like that and not make it a primal factor. It could be like, originally this was for the Quincy, and something, this French related theme or French related threat, took it over and turned it into what it ultimately became. Some fans have speculated that the Quincy afterlife may be, like the Quincy themselves, based on more Western ideas of the afterlife, perhaps emulating a Christian style heaven of white clouds and pearly gates. That would make it a natural counterpart to Hell, although it has the unintentional implication that the Soul Society itself is more of a purgatory than a proper afterlife. The idea of a Quincy heaven does carry with it its own disturbing implications, though. Uryu, for example, won't get to enjoy an afterlife with his friends. It also raises a lot of questions about someone like Ichigo, who is both Quincy and not. Dealing with a Quincy afterlife might also be difficult, directly following on from the Thousand Year Blood War, as presumably many slain enemies are now there, potentially including your watch himself. like Dragon Ball kind of showed that there could still be separate entities even in, like, maybe the Quincy afterlife could also have its own structure of like a hell and a heaven. So when Bach gets there, like, for starters, it could be that he doesn't have the powers that he once wielded, and also it could be that he's sent to a separate part where there's maybe like a King Yama and stuff there as well, to like, nah bro, you ain't coming over here, what you doing fam, you out, stop playing. The Quincy afterlife would no doubt be extremely hostile to Soul Reaper intrusion, as most of them were likely killed by Soul Reapers in the Quincy genocide. That risked retreading familiar ground, so perhaps a different approach to the Quincy afterlife would be warranted. Regardless of how it's approached, the idea of a Quincy afterlife and another unknown spirit realm is the ideal material with which Bleach could be revived. And honestly, I think that there's just so much endless possibilities, and Kubo making statements like this is just one extra thing of, if he decided tomorrow, yo dog, I got like millions of fans that will love more Bleach, let me make more Bleach. Hey, there's a Quincy afterlife. Hey, we got the Hell arc. It's just more material for Kubo to potentially explore down the road, with, if he decided to do a Bleach continuation, which, you know, you won't do the Bleach continuation. Stop playing games. Finish off that little Hell arc one-shot thingy majig, and let's get, I don't know if you want to do a Bleach Next Generation, or take more of the route of like Dragon Ball Z, where Goku still was the main character, and, you know, like Gohan, you know, something along that ballpark. But regardless of what, Kubo, we know what you want to do. Do it. And regardless of what, shout out to Club Outside. Moving forward, so recently the Dragon Ball fandom was shaken up, stirred up quite a bit, thanks to a producer from Dragon Ball Daima coming out and speaking on the future of Dragon Ball, and also giving insight into what Dragon Ball Daima, the purpose of Dragon Ball Daima truly is, and kind of has some fans, you know, upset. Some fans are just kind of taking it in. Overall, got the fandom a bit split down the middle, so to speak, based on what he said regarding Dragon Ball. So let's just read and we'll talk about it, because a lot of interesting tidbits on Dragon Ball Daima, the future of the Dragon Ball IP as a whole. Dragon Ball producer shares major update on the anime's future. Dragon Ball Daima will be coming to an end later this month, but the producer behind it all is teasing that the anime franchise will be continuing for many years to come. Dragon Ball Daima has been a welcome surprise, as the new anime has sent Goku on a new adventure to help celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Dragon Ball manga's original debut. This brand new anime tells a story that fits in between the events of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super, so there's clearly a runway for whatever project that might come after to continue things even further. Before we continue, I mean, did anybody doubt that Dragon Ball was going to continue for years to come? Like, can we, you know what I'm saying? Let's be real. Dragon Ball is going to continue on and on and on. Fans are still eagerly awaiting for Dragon Ball Super 2, the anime, and of course there's always the possibility of exploring the timeline of after end of Z. I think most Dragon Ball fans would probably be the most excited about something exploring that timeline. Like, don't get me wrong, Super has been one heck of a ride. Daima has had its enjoyable moments. Ultimately, bro, the end of Z happened so long ago, and you know, it's always been a tease. And of course there's GT, which technically is after Z, and also there's a time in between end of Z and GT that can be explored as well if they still wanted to keep GT canonical to the whole structure of things. Like, there's still a period in between end of the tournament or whatnot and when GT happens. Like, Pan is what, 4 or 5 at the end of Z, and by the beginning of GT, not including the Funimation dub era where they turned her 14, she's like 9 or 10. And you know, GT, there's still like 4 or 5 years in between there that you could explore and would be freaking awesome. And if some fans, you know, their headcanon don't want to include GT, you can still right there, which it would be a little bit different because from, you know, what we've seen, Goku is pretty much with Oob through that time period. But I guess that could also offer up, you know, some exploration of other characters of like, hey, how about Vegeta being the leader of a story for a while, or do some apocalyptic stuff with Krillin. Like, there's so many endless possibilities that can be done in between that timeline. And in general, if Dragon Ball is going to be coming for many years to come, now's the opportunity to explore stuff. Granted, of course, we don't have Toriyama anymore at the helm of this scenario, but Toyotaro has seemingly been his apprentice and the person that's going to carry the mantle of Dragon Ball. And of course, the team that he created, the Dragon Ball Room, before his passing, that they, if anybody, is going to continue with, should be the ones to do it and get it done properly. Dragon Ball executive producer Akio Iyoku recently opened up about Dragon Ball Daima in an interview with Montan Web ahead of its grand finale. And here he was asked about the future of the franchise overall, with his newest project coming to an end without any potential new releases on the horizon just yet. Iyoku shared a very promising update on the anime's future, teasing a further expansion of the franchise. Iyoku teased there was no doubt that the franchise will keep going for decades to come. Did anybody doubt that? What's next after Dragon Ball Daima? When asked about the future of the Dragon Ball franchise, Iyoku stated, "Producing anime and games takes time, but we're steadily preparing for the future. We want to expand the franchise even further. There's no doubt Dragon Ball will continue for decades to come. This is surely a good sign for fans, as the future of the franchise seemed even more uncertain than ever before following the tragic passing of Akira Toriyama." But this also falls in line with what Iyoku said even before Daima premiered last year. The team is always looking ahead to what could be coming next. We're still coming up with various plans, brainstorming many things, and we'll keep moving forward. I want to continue giving it my all alongside Goku's voice actor Masako Nozawa. Goku's voice actor is down to keep going as well when she received a special award at the 66 Mainichi Art Awards. "I don't know how much longer I can do," Nozawa stated, "but the age I've decided on is that I'd like to keep it going." Yeah, we recently reported that she said she'll go until 182 years old. She'll keep on voicing Goku. Shoutouts to Nozawa. When does Dragon Ball Daima end? It's the right time to look ahead and hope for more Dragon Ball, as the current anime is going to be ending fairly soon. Yeah, Daima ends for the Japanese version February 28th with the 20th episode. That's the Japanese version. The dub, it'll be a while, so we'll see. But the end of the anime isn't so scary anymore, as now it's confirmed that there will be new Dragon Ball anime releases in the future. In the meantime, the Super manga is also coming back with a brand new story later this month. But that was some good news, and like it was stated in that article, that Akio Iyoku said something very major about Dragon Ball, and this in particular about Daima. One thing that majority of fans said the moment they heard the news that Daima was going to be having Goku as a child again. Almost everybody unanimously said, GT. You know what I'm saying? GT? What are we doing here, fam? And yeah, the producer came out and said this. Dragon Ball Daima producer confirms series was essentially a GT remake. Ever since Dragon Ball Daima's concept was introduced to shonen fans, many longtime Z fighter enthusiasts couldn't help but think of a past grand tour. Dragon Ball GT might not have been canon, that depends on the fan, but its influence and legacy has long been a part of the shonen franchise, especially when it comes to elements like Super Saiyan 4. In a new interview with the latest anime's producer, Akio Iyoku explains that Daima was specifically created as a way to reintroduce the original series that transformed Son Goku into his younger self once again. To start, producer Iyoku confirmed that the latest anime was made specifically for Grand Tour fans that originally grown up with the spin-off. "I was conscious of the generation in their early 30s and older who have grown up and have children. I wanted to make an anime that parents and children could watch together. They are the generation that watched Dragon Ball GT as children. I was conscious of that, and my attempt to create a new anime series like GT became the starting point." And that's fascinating, to say the least, that he would be bold enough to even attempt that they would allow him to attempt that to begin with. The fact that let's be honest, GT was never, regardless of where it was released, met with praise. It was never met with critical acclaim. It was never met with like the ginormous success that Dragon Ball had prior to that with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. GT was, you know, it was cut short because of that. It did 64 episodes, and the TV special with Goku Jr. and all that stuff, that all happened like that because it wasn't as successful as its predecessor. So it being, you know, a remake with Daima, whatnot, Daima basically being the remake of GT, I don't know. It must have been a project of passion. It also must have been something along the lines of, well, GT was a great idea, the execution just wasn't properly done, right? That must have been the idea, but some fans would argue that Daima is kind of in that same ballpark. Aside from a couple of big transformation moments and the enjoyability of it, him making this choice, shout outs to them going with what they, you know, their heart felt like going with. I think that's a very important thing, going with, you know, the creativity, going with genuinely, truly the art, putting the art first, because the art always has to go first, no matter what business, all of that stuff, art first before it all. So props to them going that route, but in terms of from a business standpoint, maybe wasn't the best idea, just being honest. Or if they were going to go that route, they still nevertheless should have tried to incorporate other elements to make it okay. Fine, Goku's a kid again, GT, you know, reminiscent, but all the other elements should have been kind of maneuvered so that they didn't make the same mistakes as GT. I don't think that Daima has been the successful Dragon Ball franchise that a lot of people would have hoped, or Dragon Ball series that a lot of people would have hoped, considering what the franchise has seen even 5 or 6 years ago, all the way up to like the Broly film, even the superhero film. Huge stuff. In a shocking twist, Ioku revealed that the original plan for Daima was to follow in GT's footsteps by only making Goku transform into a child. Dragon Ball creator Toriyama came up with the idea to have the entire cast transformed. As the producer explained, Dragon Ball GT is an original TV anime that aired from 96 to 97 and has something in common with Daima in that Goku goes on a great adventure in a tiny form. Adult Goku is cool, but the tiny Goku is not only cool but also cute and has a different charm. One of the highlights of Daima is the action scene where tiny Goku fights using his power pole. Toriyama, brilliant idea in terms of the fact that you don't want to completely remake GT of only making Goku a kid. Again, it didn't work. A lot of people didn't really care for GT. Even when it came out in the West, people really weren't gung-ho for GT. So trying to, okay, well, let's make everybody a kid. See how that goes. I think Toriyama, just another, you know, showing of his brilliance of, no, let's not do exactly GT. Turn them all into kids and see how that works. And I think that actually benefited the series a bit, despite the fact that, yeah, people don't want to see them as kids. But Kid Vegeta going Super Saiyan 3 was insane. Ioku continues, a big theme of this work is to have a wider audience, and although this is in hindsight, I feel that by making Goku smaller, the entry point has become wider. I never thought that everyone would be so small, but of course it was Sensei's idea. GT means Grand Touring, and we are trying to depict an adventure in Daima as well. It will have a different flow and form from Super, where Goku steadily improves his strength. Even though Goku is small, the sight of him fighting by leaps and bounds using his power pole looks fresh, and it will show a different appeal from Super. With Dragon Ball Daima's grand finale set to arrive later this month on February 28th, many fans have been left wondering whether a second season is in the work. While the anime's producer did not reveal whether the mini Z Fighter's journey through the demon realm will continue, Ioku did confirm, like we stated earlier, that it'll be going for quite some time, decades to come, and all of that jazz. And yeah, I mean, fans called it from the very, you know, inception of it that Dragon Ball Daima was a GT remake, and Ioku kind of confirmed it. Then this is something pretty interesting as a kind of update on the return of the Dragon Ball Super manga. In case you don't know, Dragon Ball Super's manga returns, I think either the 19th or the 20th. The Dragon Ball Super manga is returning with, was originally announced as a one-shot. Now it seems as though Dragon Ball Super's manga might just be continuing, because according to the recent listing of it, the upcoming special one-shot isn't a one-shot at all, but is rather being listed as the 104th chapter of Dragon Ball Super. While this update doesn't necessarily mean the artist Toyotaro is once again returning to a monthly schedule, it's good news regarding the shonen manga keeping the story following the passing of Toriyama. Trunks and Goten's superhero activities are mostly played for laughs, but the hybrid Saiyans can still pack a punch should the need arise. So yeah, Dragon Ball Super's manga is actually returning. Now granted, it could just be, hey, this is chapter 104, but it's not going to have anything else moving forward. And of course, again, a lot of people are going to be disappointed that, hey, this isn't, you know what I'm saying, after the Frieza stuff. But if this is actually being listed as 104, this could potentially be the start of a new arc. Like this could actually be like, all right, maybe it's going to be a mini arc that's going to lead into whatever's supposed to come after Black Frieza, which hopefully that's the case. If this isn't a one shot, if they're listing this as the next chapter of Dragon Ball Super, this could be the, you know, catalyst to whatever's to come. And hopefully so, because Dragon Ball Super, if it is going to return at some given point, you know, Daima's about to end soon. Dragon Ball had its run in that capacity with the anime. Dragon Ball Super returning, this is the perfect time. Daima ends the 28th, the manga returning on the 20th, a few, you know, basically about a week or so before Daima's end. This could be where Dragon Ball fans will continue to get their fix, so to speak, with the anime ending and the manga of Super coming back. But of course, only time will tell. And then lastly, something that I did want to cover is the fact that One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 has been confirmed to be coming to the next gen consoles with new DLC on the way. And I thought that that was an interesting move. At the same time, it's kind of like, because I bought Pirate Warriors 4, I don't even know, it feels like it was 100 years ago or something like that. One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 has been out for quite some time, and then putting it to the consoles, I miss the days where honestly it was more so where video games, you know, from existing IPs didn't really do this, where, you know, the constant re-releases of games or whatnot. Because if you already played Pirate Warrior 4 and, you know, ultimately you did everything on there, whether you platinumed it or not, but, you know, you had your experience with it. For fans that are waiting for a new One Piece game and they get this, kind of just feels a little bit disappointing to a certain degree. And also, if, you know, they're probably not going to do a free upgrade for the fans that bought it from the previous consoles and whatnot, so essentially you'd probably have to repurchase it. I could be wrong, they could actually have an upgrade service that they're going to do for fans for the PS5 version. But in general, this generation of console gaming from the very start up till now, and they're talking about PS6 already, and, you know, there's the Switch 2 and all of this other stuff, I'm just kind of like, it feels like this generation of console gaming really didn't have that same impact or that same catalog of games, or just in general, it didn't hit like any of the previous ones. I mean, granted, the consoles themselves were launched during the, you know, start of the pandemic, which was a very odd choice, but in general, it's like, you know, the catalog for games for this console generation is like, yeah, there's some really awesome stuff, and don't get me wrong, I'm really excited about things like Sparking Zero. I'm still playing that, and there's some great games, but I just feel like, yo, can we get new titles? Like, they're talking about PS6, can we still get more games for this generation, and some good games at that? I'm just saying, I don't want to already, you know, be thinking about I gotta get a PS6 and all this stuff. You feel me? And I totally just went on a separate tangent there, but I just had to throw that in there. It's like, what are we doing here, fam? Pirate Warriors, we should be getting Pirate Warriors 5, if anything. Why are we re-releasing 4? But yeah, that's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.
Maybe our love is a movie. Maybe our love is a movie. Maybe our love is a movie. Never can I have what I'm doing. Maybe our love is a movie.